Hi, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. Marek Pikna, our Senior Technical Account Manager at Manta, will show you how Manta platform can be leveraged in the heavily regulated financial sector. We'll take a closer look at how our customers use automated Lineage to adhere to data privacy and financial regulations, how to ensure accurate reporting, and how to run impact analysis. If you have any questions during the demonstration, please put them into the chat and we'll get to those at the end of the demonstration. And also please note that this is not a full demo, but rather a quick overview of the main features that Manta can offer. So sit back, enjoy, and again, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat. And it's all yours, Mike.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Carolina. So hello, everyone. Trust that all of you are doing well. My name is Marek Pikna, and I'm responsible for handling our customers from technical side of things, ensuring that they obtain the value from Manta and understand how to work with the product. Today, we'll be taking a look specifically at how Manta can help in a financial environment, which, as Carolina was mentioning, can be quite regulated. Before we start taking a look at Manta exactly, it is good to first of all establish the baseline of what we even mean by data lineage. What can we expect that to mean? What can we expect Manta to provide to the end users? So data lineage itself consists of all of the objects, of all of the metadata, or rather I would say that's metadata is how we get to that, but that will something that we'll cover later. But it's really a description of how the data itself in the environment flows, not just between systems, but even in themselves, meaning that within organizations, they're going to be having multiple databases, multiple solutions, which send the data from the database into a data lake that somehow gets into a warehouse, somehow gets into reports, and data lineage is the description of exactly these flows of data. Through having access to this information, organizations are capable of very quickly perform any kinds of immediate actions within their environment, which can help them with day-to-day operational efforts. It can also help them with any kind of, for instance, cloud migrational efforts and such, enabling them truly to make sure that they are in control of their environment and understand it very, very well. What I would like to also focus on before we take a look at Manta is also how come solving this data lineage problem is so difficult. For instance, personally, when I've told friends of mine that I'm working on a tool which is solving this kind of problem with data lineage, there was a lot of questions going, how come organizations aren't able to handle this? How come how come this is such a difficult topic? Because organizations should be understanding exactly what their environments look like. There are certainly multiple reasons why solving data lineage and having description of this data lineage is difficult, but I would like to focus on three. The first one, which I would like to mention or take a look at, is level of detail. And what we mean by that is really the complexity of the actual metadata. So when having to describe data lineage, when having to document what the environment looks like, it is necessary to understand the actual source code of the objects which perform this. So if there is SQL scripts in database which somehow aggregates data in views, it is necessary to understand those. The difficulty, however, comes from the fact that it is necessary to really understand those in depth, and through further development from further new ways of implementing various solutions, these solutions are becoming more and more and more complex. So covering data lineage really properly, explaining what happens to each single attribute, each single column in a database table, becomes very difficult, as there is just a lot of technologies implemented in very complicated ways, moving the data around. The second reason why I would also like to mention that, which I personally find being the most important one, let's just say that we would be capable of manually analyzing existing source code and describing the lineage. We would be able to take a look at some environment. I would be able to perfectly understand it. I would be able to perfectly, without any human mistake, I would be able to really describe it and provide someone the data lineage. However, at the same time, what I do today may not be correct tomorrow. At the end of the day, change is the only constant in our lives, and the environments, especially in data environments, are going to be changing over time almost constantly. There is going to be new solutions being added. Existing solutions, through their maintenance, are going to somehow be changed. Existing solutions may not be changed directly with implementation, but maybe they depend on something else. They depend on some upstream application providing data through an API. That one changes, so something needs to change once again. So in essence, my documentation today may no longer be true tomorrow. And this is really the big part of it, that with how complicated the lineage is, due to the fact it changes constantly, being able to manually control this, being able to manually understand the environment becomes now impossible, showing how important it is to have an automated solution which can actually provide end users with accurate and up-to-date data lineage. Finally, the third reason why I would highlight that data lineage is really difficult to achieve and really difficult to obtain is the scope of the environment. Typically, for organizations where data lineage is going to matter, we're going to be taking a look at a financial example, and even then, it is going to be just a relatively simple demonstration example. But of course, even for any other organization, their environments are already large. We're talking about environments where there is multiple solutions, tens to hundreds of databases which exist, which contain data from representing various systems. All of those are being pushed into data warehouse through various methods, sometimes even multiple technologies. The environments are simply absolutely massive. Saying in very simple words. And that is really important here, because what that means is that not only is it difficult to actually describe it in an accurate level of detail due to complexity, it also changes constantly. And also there is, in very simple words, just way too much data as well as metadata in our environments. So there's, of course, multiple other reasons we mentioned on this slide. There's even other reasons, but these three, I think, are given a very nice overview of exactly why data lineage is tough to handle. So with regards to that, I would like to take a look at Manta. And as Carolina was mentioning, we are now going to be taking a look at full demonstration of Manta. We are now going to be taking a look at every single feature. We are, rather than that, going to be taking a look at one very sample and, in a way, simple. We'll be seeing that it's fairly long data flow, but not very complicated. And we'll be seeing what we can actually obtain with regards to information here. In this case, the lineage itself is going to be related to Basel reporting, as we are in financial environment. And here I would mention two important things that we need to take a look at. Because in these reports, for regulators, there's going to be two main questions. First of which is, which data set is being used? For any kinds of regulations, it becomes important to be able to prove that you are using only certain pieces of data. So it becomes important to be able to say where the data comes from, what exactly the attributes are, what they actually represent. The second thing, which also becomes very important, is, of course, in essence, how do you behave to the data? How do you work with it? What are the calculations being done? Are they being done correctly? When you show anyone a report with a final number, how did that number actually come to be? In this case, you can see a certain table with certain various values. Those are not really important here. Those are only to show and highlight that with regards to these reports, there may be various factors being utilized. And we would just like to know exactly both of these questions, meaning where is the data coming from which we're using, as well as what are the calculations that we are doing. So let's take a look at it. Let me share my screen again, and we'll be taking a look at Manta itself. So I'll be sharing the screen, Manta Flow Viewer. And there we go. So right now we're looking at initial view of Manta right after logging in. In our environment, we are able to see that there's multiple different systems which Manta has scanned. So if we desire to, we can see Lineage for our Cognos reports, where we have exactly these kinds of operational risks. We could also take a look at what's in our Oracle database. We could take a look at something else, but let's say that we want to start with the Cognos report. We exactly want to see for the report, where did we get the data and what were the calculations? So if we want to visualize Lineage in Manta, we can easily drag and drop the objects of which we are interested in Lineage. There is further perimeters, how to use various filters, how to use higher and lower level of detail and so on. But as this is a more simple, say, introduction into Manta, this will be skipped. Of course, if you're interested in more, don't hesitate to visit our website or schedule a demo. We'll be happy to show you everything in a higher level of detail. But let's take a look at it right here. Let's visualize the lineage and let's see what we are going to obtain. And already we are seeing in the black color in these nodes, we are looking at the initial objects. So we're looking at the report itself. Right here, we are also taking a look in different colors at a certain Postgres database. We're looking at talent jobs. So there's ETL pushing data into Postgres, SQL, and I could be going further and further and further. So if I actually take a look at it, I was mentioning that the lineage itself is relatively simple. It almost just keeps going forward and forward and forward from the upstream systems. But if I take a look at it, I actually had to take all of these steps just to get to the sources. So finally, now I know that my sources, the data which I'm actually using in order to calculate the reports, I am working with transactions, which are implemented in a certain Oracle table, which are considered daily transactions. There's also investment banking system, which I'm utilizing to calculate my final report. And there's also within channels of, transactions from online channels, and even something related to card management for card fees. So there's essentially 4 different, I would even say, systems which are being utilized here. If I want to exactly know what happens there as they go to report, I can see that those are being moved through Talent as an ETL tool into in this case, actually CSV files, which are then being loaded into a Hive table. Further are being moved into a staging area. And there is further or more inserts, stage, post stage, how that actually goes through the environment. What I would like to take a look at right here, so what I am able to do already, even now, without really focusing too much on analyzing what's happening, I've already been able to answer a possible question of anyone, of my manager, of a regulator, of literally anyone, which data are we using to build the report? Because from the report perspective, I may be using some kind of a view, but now I actually very well understand the original data sets that I'm working with, which is great. These questions can actually be very difficult to answer. However, what we're still not able to really answer, and where Manta can really help, is explaining what happens to the data. So we know the data is coming from these 4 systems. We know that it goes through Talent. We know that it goes into a Hive table. We know that it's located in Postgres SQL later on. But we yet don't know what happens there. So Manta is actually going to be able to help us in 2 very powerful ways. The first of which is that if we take a look at it, right here we have a table called fee detail that is somehow being used right here in an insert procedure or function and going into a table called fee. What is actually really interesting here is that Manta not only is capable of showing me the actual source code for the script which actually moves the data. So right here, if I want to know, okay, I'm actually using an insert statement. Is there an aggregation? Is there a calculation? Is it just one-to-one movement? Is it a maintenance script for history or something similar? But right here, I'm able to really go into the source code and see exactly what's happening, which is really great because that means that I'm actually able to really understand my flow of data. I'm able to really accurately describe this data lineage diagram and understand what data I'm working with. If the regulator is going to be asking, how did this number come to be? How did you calculate it? I'm going to be able to say so not only on the report level, but also I'm going to be able to prove that my calculation is correct because I'm taking into consideration the original flow of data. But still, there's one important piece to it. This still assumes that me or I am actually a developer because I still need to read the code, I still need to understand it. But at Manta, we really aim for the solution to be viable for, I would say, less engineering-oriented positions. Really, end users who may, for instance, just want to know what is their sales report looking like? How do they calculate? Was it just average? Was it something similar? So in Manta, what I can actually obtain is the information within a function, procedure, anything which may transform the data. I get a tag. I get a tag saying here, in this case, it's TT, and that is going to be transformation tag. This is showing that this actually is data which is somehow transformed. If I take a look at it in detail, I can see it right here, that actually the attribute itself is a sum multiplying amount by currency rate. So I can see that at this point, the data that I'm working with is actually somehow changed. It's not the same as it was before. There was a certain transformation applied. I can see exactly which transformation, which data. And then, of course, I can finally go further on. Again, another transformation in a view. If I'm interested in what the transformation was, I can see it yet again. So in this case, it seems to be a certain union. And I could, of course, keep going further and further until, once again, we get to the same stage that before, and we see the final consumption layer being the report, somehow consuming the data, building it. Once again, we can see exactly what is contained in the report, what are the transformations, once again, what are the, for instance, expressions, so we can finally see the actual result. So through Manta, this became a really interesting, really, I would say even a simple task. We didn't even have to analyze this longer than 8 minutes with these descriptions, and we were already able to explain where our data came from that our reporting team has actually developed. And we were also able to explain exactly what happens there. We didn't go too much into detail, but for this purpose, that's not the main point here. This really shows how easy it becomes to understand our environments. And of course, in this example, we're working with a very straightforward lineage graph. We're working with tables, ETLs, data warehouse. There's not that many introductions of new data sets. There's not that many dependent solutions. Of course, in real world environments, they get more and more and more complicated. And that's exactly what I was mentioning with environments which are really difficult to describe manually. So this otherwise typically daunting task becomes much, much easier thanks to Manta. So this was a short introduction of exactly what Manta looks like, how it feels, how it can help you. I would further on like to take a look at more details surrounding Manta. So first of which is answering the question of how Manta even works in the first place. So Manta itself is an application solution which connects to the systems within the environment and analyzes them for lineage. The way that a scan works is that it is a essentially two-step process, or three depending on the needs. During the first step of a Manta scan, Manta connects to databases, ETL repositories, reporting APIs, really anything we support. For a complete list of technologies we support, you can see that within on getmanta.com. What I would mention here is that during this period where Manta extracts the metadata, Manta does not look at the data itself, only the metadata, so the SQL queries, report definitions and such, and all of it is extracted. Afterwards, Manta analyzes the metadata in order to, first of all, understand what the metadata actually is, so what tables there are, what views there are, but more importantly, the relationships between them. Which view or which tables is a certain view built upon, or which workflow is taking data from which table. And during that process, Manta constructs this end-to-end data lineage graph. I would mention that there is an optional third step where Manta can either export the lineage into its own native formats for it to be utilized in other applications, for instance, or even integrates with other solutions out of the box to enhance their capabilities, very often, but not limited to data governance solutions. I would like to just in general mention some of the key features which Manta can provide you with, full of which is that Manta is a fully automated solution. This lineage graph that we're looking at, that was not modeled by hand. Manta analyzes everything automatically. We strive to be as automated as possible. Manta also comes with a powerful API, not only allowing you to utilize the scanning capabilities in a programmatic fashion, but even to work with a repository. So you can work with a repository, access it via an API, and build your own integrations with Manta. Watch as various, essentially, for instance, build alerts when there's changes on lineage for particular objects. If data in a certain table is going to be changing because a table that's far in the upstream has changed, you are going to be able to have that capability. As shown, Manta is able to show you exactly how data transforms on attribute level. So if you have a certain view, taking data from multiple tables, aggregating it, filtering it, you are going to see exactly how. Is it taken one? Is it somehow calculating an average of 3 numbers? You are going to see exactly what the transformation is. Manta also enables you further to see conditional lineage as well as indirect lineage, which provides you really accurate understanding of how various objects in the environment depend on each other. When there is movements which are very filtered, whereas where conditions, you are really going to see how various attributes control the data flow, not only where the data is physically being moved. So we are able to cover all the where conditions, filters, or joins in SQL so that you can really understand how the results come to be, even if those conditions may actually not be physically moved anywhere. Manta also provides you the capability of seeing historical lineage, meaning what your environment used to look like in a week ago, half a month ago, a year ago. And through these, you are also able to even compare the lineage. You are going to be able to see exactly what the changes are. So common use case, for instance, you have a report, the report no longer works, very likely because something has changed. With Manta, you are going to be able to see exactly what the environment was, what it is now, and what was the change in a visual form. Maybe there was a table that had a column removed. Maybe a procedure has been removed from a system and the data is just not being loaded. Whatever it is, you are going to be able to see that. And finally, Manta provides you the ability to really understand your environment in order to accurately analyze impact of any change, understand root causes of any changes, thanks to having an end-to-end complete data journey. Right here on the slide, we also mentioned some of Manta's customers, which are referenceable. Of course, for more information, you can see our website, getmanta.com. Or if you wish to, you can, of course, reach to us via our email, manta@getmanta.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Marek. As I'm looking, we don't have any questions at the moment. So if someone has them, please put them into the chat now. We'll have like 3 more minutes to be here. I thank you very much, Marek, for walking us through it. I like that this is a very specific use case, but I think many people can can see themselves in it, and many people are struggling with seeing where their report came from and what are the sources of data they are using. So I hope it helped you. Thank you for your time, and if you need anything, you can come to our website getmanta.com, or you can reach out to me either on my email, you probably have it, or it's Carolina@mikova@getmanta.com, or in our generic manta@getmanta.com. With that, I will conclude this session. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day, everyone. Bye.
Have a great day, everyone.